Welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. Guess who I am? And we're going to talk about, we're going in between the pages of another fascinating book that is 2 years in the making, folks. The book was published in 2023. I talked to him in 2024, but now we're doing it in 2025. Some books are just that good. We got to talk about them. Join the Brambles is the book. And as many of you guys know or don't know, some of my folks are out there, I had a hard 2 years. So I'm back in business, and that's why we're getting to the book. And actually, this book makes sense right now for me talking about it. And we're going to tell you why in a second. But let me introduce to you my guest, the guy who wrote this thing. He graduated from Southern Utah University, received a law degree from the University of Southern California, USC. I was just there yesterday. And I was just over there. I don't live far from there. He practiced labor law in California for 40 years, then decided to write. He has 6 children, and he has a grillion grandchildren. I have 5, but he has like 17 at the runtime of this book. So I can't even keep up with my 5. And he is just a joy. He's a joy, as you'll see, to talk to you. It's Ross Palfreyman. Hi, Ross.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. What say? My middle name starts with the H. Also, what's your middle name?
It was the first of many arguments that my parents had over the years. My mom's maiden name is Hunter, and she wanted it to be Ross Hunter Palfreyman. My dad said that was a stupid name, and so they compromised with H. So it's just an initial.
Oh, how fun! Oh my God! Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Ross. That's a great name. Hello.
Yeah.
With your dad, that's a man. It's a manly, like you're a superhero kind of name. Like if they're fighting crime or something, which you did in law later. I like it. My middle name is Harrison.
Ah.
I'm James Harrison Lott Jr.
So they gave you a middle name.
Yes.
They did not give me one.
They give you one. I got one. I got a middle name. Very crazy. I want to read this first little section right here. The book is called Join the Brambles. You can get it on Amazon or other places. This is a quote from the book, from our man right there. I am reminded of bramble bushes that can provide us with sweet fruits such as blackberries and raspberries. However, around those sweet fruits are prickly brambles that must be navigated. That does not mean we cannot get the fruit. It means only that we need to know how to move through the brambles. That is a great analogy, because I was like, what is a bramble? I had no idea. So the title. And that to me, right, I want to start off right there. That is life. Life has all kinds of prickly things around it, but we can get through it, can't we, Mr. Ross?
Yep. That title, the working title of the book was actually Choose Joy. And I was sitting in an airport in Oakland, and the Hudson bookstore there, I was sitting near there, and I looked at the rack, and there was a book called Choose Joy. And it really ticked me off. I thought, I'd been spending years writing this book, and I thought, I goofed up. I was too lazy. I didn't get it done. So I bought the book and read it. And it didn't say what I wanted to say about joy. So I thought, I'll just pick a new title. It was actually a pretty good book, but it deals with happiness and joy the way most people do. One is just deeper than the other. And I really feel like the source of joy is what really matters. And it's quite distinctive from happiness. And so I was planting raspberry bushes and blackberry bushes in my yard. And I have to take blood thinners. And so when I reach in to pick the raspberries, I get little tiny scratches that I don't even feel. They're not a big deal. But then I walk in the house and my arms are just bloody from this stuff. And I thought, those dang brambles. And that's where I came up with the idea for the book, is that the raspberries, the blackberries are all wonderful, but you have to get to them. And sometimes that takes some navigation. So that's how the book title came about.
I like it. I think you actually read the other book. That's kind of cool. Let me see what they're talking about. I feel, just me, it's just how in my nearly 6 years of life, I don't know everything, folks. But what I do feel is that happiness is just an emotion at a given time. but joy is it's the deeper of the two. So in your book, that's a through line. You talk about happiness. We're trying to get to joy. That's the whole point of the book. And you mentioned about happiness. What are your thoughts about happiness versus joy?
I think you can have both. I think they're both good things. But I do tell one story in the book that I had to choose between happiness and joy. And you can't always have both. Sometimes you do have to choose. And I think it's important to understand what they are so that you make good choices as you go along. So for me, happiness, I think I say something in the book about another slice of pizza would be really nice. That makes me happy. I love to go to Dodger games, makes me happy. And I can think back and think happy times about going to a Dodger game, but it's not the same as joy. So I think happy is good. We exercise more so that we can enjoy our lives more. I used to exercise more. Not as much now, but
I understand.
yeah. So, but there are a lot of things in life that we all like. There are bird watchers; they like to go birding. There are people who like to work in their yard. When I moved to Utah, when I was young, I thought I'm going to buy 20 acres and I'm just going to cultivate 20 acres. And now I'm older and I bought a half an acre, and that's too much. So.
I'm all 20 acres is a lot. Like, that's a lot. I'm like, I know, but I'm a gardener. So I'm like, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah. So I think happiness is something that I did not try to say, don't go after happiness. I think there's real value to being happy in life. And I think I've been happy a lot of times and I like it.
Well, it sounds like almost kind of what I was saying, that happiness are moments. I feel like for me, I just feel like, and as I was reading your book, and because you talk about service also, which is something that brings me joy, being of service. This to me is being of service. I'm showing off your book to people. That to me is much more than like you said, having a happy moment. I had a good piece of pizza the other day. Speaking of pizza, place called D-Town Pizzeria. It's Detroit style pizza. I had 2 slices. I was happy.
Yeah.
I can tell you I was happy. Now, I mean, it also kind of brought me joy, but it was like I was happy for that moment when I was eating it. But the joy for me is something deeper, like I love my garden. I love being out in my garden. It brings me joy and happiness, but it brings me joy to be able to see things come to fruition, to plant stuff, to my hands, to my nails dirty. That stuff makes me joyful. But yeah, it can makes me happy too. But like, I don't know. I feel like what you're saying is kind of what I think. It's kind of like, it's just like, there are times when I'm happy.
Right.
And you said there's nothing bad with either of them.
Right. I think that's absolutely true. A lot of people, I first started writing the book like 10 years ago. And so I went online and I looked up joy books to see, if there's even a need for another book on joy. And most of the time, people will say, happy is one thing, but if you do more of it, you can get joy. And for me, it was like, no, I think they're different. I think they're actually different. And you need to understand the difference. One comes from looking inwardly and satisfying your own needs. My pizza, when I go out and work in the garden all day, and my wife comes out and says, "Why don't you hire someone to do this?" I said, "Well, because I'm happy. I like doing this." And so there's happy, and that comes from inward focus, things that you enjoy about your life, and that's a good thing. But there's also outward focus. And with outward focus, you're serving other people. And by serving other people, you look to what their needs are. And it's really quite amazing that even in times of trouble, fires in LA and things like that, you hear these wonderful stories of neighbors who might not have even known each other. They go and help each other. And in these tragedies, you get this deeper sense of joy. You're not happy your house burned down, but you're joyful that there are people around you who matter. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, there's more to this life than just me. And for me, that's however you perceive of God. That's God blessing you with this feeling of joy because you served one of his children, which from a Christian perspective, That's what Christ taught was, look, if you want to find your life, you lose it in the service of others. And so I think that's really the pathway to joy. And I tell stories in the book that are about me and other people that I know. And sometimes there are things that I did well, and then there's sometimes I didn't do so well, and somebody else corrected me. And so I do think there's a difference. I think they're both very important, but joy is looking outward and seeing the needs of other people, and seeing to those needs. And actually, I break it down into 3 steps: caring. You got to care about somebody. And then you have to have compassion, which means, hey, I care about this person. Is there something I can do to help? And then the 3rd step is actually charity and acting, which is doing what you thought, oh, I can do this. And so it's 3 steps. And joy is the gift from God. And I treat it more in the book like a contract. He's generated a unilateral contract on our behalf. I went to law school at SC, and there were a lot of things I learned there that I just said, well, that's never going to help me. I'm never going to need that. And one of the things was in the very first semester, I think, was a bilateral contract and a unilateral contract. And I thought, well, I don't care about that. Who cares? But it was a promise for a promise in a bilateral contract. And in a unilateral contract, it's a promise for an act. And so there's a promise made, and the person then commits to doing something for you if you act. So if you paint my fence, I'll give you $500. That doesn't mean you have to paint the fence. But if you do paint the fence, he has to pay you $500. And that's kind of the contract that God has made with us. He wants us to take care of each other. And he doesn't care. For this purpose, I happen to be a Mormon guy. He doesn't care if I'm a Mormon or a Catholic or a Muslim or a Jew. He doesn't care. For him, he wants me to serve my fellow man. And that's it. And if I do that, then his promise is, I will bless you with joy. And you don't have to have joy. I mean, if you don't want to serve other people, I don't think he smacks you around or anything, but he does make it so that, well, okay, but I don't have to give you joy.